all stand and pledge allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have a roll call, please?
Present.
Present. Present. At this time, it's not on the agenda, but we have a little plaque, Key to the City, we'd like to present to our retiring council member, Sheila Radford. And let's see.
That's fine if you have to.
Good song.
Sheila, I'd like to present this to you for all of your work in the council, and really good to see you leave, but you retired, I believe you're going to be back, right?
And our word is pretty tempting.
Sorry,
I would. I have something I'd like to give to our new council member, Mr. Kennedy, Councilmember Fantasia, and this is something that former Councilman Bob Nicola gave me when I came into office 4 years ago. And it's just a little poster that says, what is popular is not always right, and what is right is not always popular. And I always kept this at my desk. Whenever there was a really tough decision, it helped. So I do that. And thanks to everyone. It's been wonderful these last 4 years. I hate to leave, but onward and upward.
Thank you.
Well, I'd just like to say that I had the pleasure of working with Sheila Radford not only on the council, but also in the planning commission. And thank you for your insight that you brought to this city and the decisions that you have made. Thanks, Sheila.
Do we have any communications from the staff?
Ernie, did you have anything tonight? I don't believe there is anything right now.
Okay. Brings us to item 6, items from the public, non-agenda items. While the City Council welcomes and encourages participation in the meetings, it would be appreciated if you limit your comments to 3 minutes so that everyone will be heard. Matters under the jurisdiction of the Council not on the posted agenda may be addressed by the general public at this time. However, California law prohibits the Council from taking action on any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it's determined to be an emergency by the City Council. Any non-agenda items? Items of public agenda items. Any member of the audience desiring to address the Council on a matter of the agenda, please raise your hand or step to the podium at the time the item is announced by the mayor. In order that all interested parties may have an opportunity to speak, any person addressing the Council will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes unless the mayor grants a longer period of time. And when you come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record. Item number 7, interview and appointment of council member to fill the unexpired term of Council Member Reed. Term expires November 2002.
Just briefly on this item, as the council has seen in their packet, we did receive only one application. We did advertise in the paper. It was a short notice, but we did get it in the paper, and I think the word got out somewhat. People were aware of what was going on. We did receive the application from Timothy Parker, who is one of our current planning commissioners, and Tim is here tonight. I put on here that the council has the option still to interview if you want to, or based on what you decide, you can forego that process. There is only one candidate to interview, however. So,
Well, what I'd like to see is that Tim introduce himself and say what he thinks the city will look like in the future, and I don't see any reason for the questions. So,
I don't.
so
John?
same, yeah, that's fine.
Tim, is there anything you'd like to say?
Good evening. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Timothy Parker, and as Tom alluded to, in terms of my vision for the city, I think most of everything that I've thought and have expressed during the previous election still is concurrent. My presence here tonight and my application for the vacated council seat, I believe is indicative of the commitment that I set forth at the time that I ran during the election, and also the commitment I've held serving the city as the current chair and previous commission position for the last 4 years. With that, I certainly would entertain any questions that you may have, but I think everyone is pretty much aware of my background and my sincere intent to serve the city to the best of my ability.
Tim, do you have any, Tom is alluding to what you think what the city will look like in how many years?
10 years.
10 years. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, certainly I can express some of the thoughts that I've conveyed in the recent past. Certainly the downtown streetscaping, to see that come to fruition. The beautification of downtown, I think, is paramount when you talk about continuing efforts from the city with the redevelopment plan of the facades of the buildings, and of course, additionally, the street improvements for the industrial area. I think what we'll see in 10 years in terms of what the city will look like is an enhancement of what's already done.
Thank you. Anything else anyone wants to ask?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. Motion?
Yeah, there needs to be
Yeah.
a motion
Okay,
to
I'll-
appoint.
Okay, anyone?
I move that we appoint Timothy Parker to fill the vacant seat of David Reed as the new council member in the city of Newman.
I will second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0 with 2 absent. Cleve, are you going to administer the oath of office?
Yeah, we can do that now, can't we, Tom?
Yeah, it's right on, yeah, okay.
That's on your phone.
Right up here or down there?
Where do you want him, Dean? Just in front right there, fine.
Okay. Tim, you want to come up to the front, please?
We don't give you any break, we're gonna give you right for it.
Yeah, I brought my sleeve. I saw the agenda.
Good. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, E. Timothy Parker,
I, Timothy Parker,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Welcome, Tim.
Thank you.
Would you like to introduce your wife out there?
Certainly, I'd like to introduce my wife, Valerie, if you please stand. It's my wife of 11 years.
Thank you. Okay, we move on to item number 9, consent calendar. Do we have any items anyone wants to pull from that, or? No? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
A second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Item number 10, adjourn to joint meeting of City Council and Newman Redevelopment Agency. How the heck do we do that? We're right here. All right.
That's it, we're adjourned.
Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Board Member Parker,
Present. Present.
Present.
Present. I'd like to open a public hearing to consider the sale of property, 4.51 acres, South L Street, and other financial incentives to Peck and Hiller Company under redevelopment law, HNS 33433. Public hearing is now open. Anyone making comments?
Would you like, maybe if I should give a report first on this, David, if that's all right? And then
Yeah, go ahead.
if you'd like. Council has its report. Hopefully others of interest have had a chance to look at this. As you know, the city owns property down in the industrial park. To figure out exactly where that is, it's across the street, across L Street from Garten Tractor is where we own the property. We've been working with a company for 2 or 3 months now that is interested in purchasing approximately 4 acres of that property. And there's a map in your packet which shows where that is located at. The company is a construction firm that constructs concrete structures such as parking garages and other high-rise buildings, etc., out of concrete, primarily concrete. What they do is they have their forms and they build their forms on site, and then they move them to the construction site to pour the concrete and build the structures that they're building. We have worked out a potential deal with them. We have offered the property to them for $25,000 an acre, and they have agreed to that amount. As you read through the summary, it goes over as required by redevelopment law. There are some requirements that we have to go through in this summary report to find that it is legal, I guess, or in the best interest of the redevelopment agency to go through and sell this property to this company. One of the concerns, our planning director, Mr. Borcher, and I visited their present site yesterday over in East Palo Alto, and I will say initially my response or my impression was not real favorable. They've been on that site, I believe he said, since 1963, so they've been there quite some time. As you know, development standards probably in 1963 were not what they are today, and so they were on that site and have existed there and have not done much to the site since that time. We expressed quite a bit of concern with them that that's not what we wanted to see down in our industrial park. It's basically, if I could say, a dirt field with some dirt roads through it going back through their forms. It looks somewhat similar to a lumber yard is how I would describe it. However, they did have quite a bit of debris, leftover things from other jobs, I'm assuming, that was scattered around throughout the yard. And again, we stressed to them that that's not what we hope to see over there. And they assured us that they are fully aware of that you know, they've been to the industrial park. We told them we have Garten Tractor, who is basically a retail business across the street, and wants that to continue looking like that. And they conveyed to us that that's what they plan on their facility looking like. They plan on doing landscaping to the facility. It will be fenced. Some of the stuff that they keep in the back, that, I mean, it is an industrial area, so it's not going to look like downtown. But some of the things that they plan on doing, and we portrayed to them, is that their project's going to need to be screened through fencing and landscaping and etc. to make it look in a presentable manner, and so that it doesn't become an eyesore down there in our industrial park. The proposal that is before you tonight is that they have offered, and through our negotiation we come to this agreement, that they would make a down payment of $20,000 towards the property, and the agency would finance the remaining amount, which is $92,750. The agreement, originally they were asking for more of a long-term payment schedule, and we came to an agreement that basically it's a 15-year term with agreement to make a lump sum payment at the end of 7 years. So it's really only a 7-year term. The payments, as you can see, would be $721.88 per month. The interest rate that we agreed on is 3% below prime, and currently that is about 6.5%. But that amount will be determined, the exact amount, once the escrow goes through. Other details, I don't know how much of this summary report you want me to go through. I can answer any questions the council may have. There is somewhat of concern on my part, and also Mr. Borchard, as we reviewed them yesterday. Initially what they have told us that there, well, I believe the number is 15 to 20 employees that they would be bringing as part of this business. We didn't see that many employees at their business when we were over there, and so I think that maybe one condition that we need to get from them is something a little more solid in writing, that they would actually be bringing these jobs to our community. Otherwise, I'm not sure that this project has a lot of value to us if it becomes simply a storage yard for their equipment and their forms. So perhaps if the council is inclined to go ahead with this agreement tonight, I think what might be advisable would be to put a condition on it that we get some sort of written condition, or perhaps even placed into the agreement, that they are going to bring, I think a minimum that we should expect should be 10 jobs from because of the financing that we are providing to them to get that benefit out of it.
And are they bringing these people, these current employees they're bringing, or are they hiring people from?
I think that some of them would be current employees. However, I don't know that all of their employees would be willing to move from that area where they are at. They haven't said for sure whether they would be current employees that they would bring over here, or if they would hire new employees. I'm assuming though that there would be some of both if we insist on that, and they do have that many employees here.
On the interest rate, is that fixed or variable?
Fixed.
Okay.
So they're moving their whole operation in Cleve? They're shutting down over there? That's what they're doing? Or they're still going to keep that?
I think that they're going to keep that for some time. Supposedly there are plans for that site. He was telling me to build actually a high-rise office building there. However, he also indicated that, for the time being, they were going to keep that site. They're on 3.5 acres right now there, and they're using every bit of it, it appeared. He mentioned that they wanted to, this site that they're getting here is 4.5 acres, so it'll give them the room they need. Plus, they said that they may have a small, look at keeping a small yard over in the San Francisco area, because a number of their jobs that they do are over in the Bay Area, and therefore, as far as moving equipment back and forth, that would enable them to store that equipment over there.
Just a FYI for the public, that comes out about $30,000 an acre. I think I read that.
Yes,
earlier.
yeah.
29
Yeah,
something, yeah.
29 something. Okay.
Yeah, if you break it down that way, too.
Cleve, I had a question in regards to what you brought up in terms of their occupancy and also the present site they have in East Palo Alto since 1963. Could we also incorporate conditions, or are the conditions incorporated as far as what we'd like to view, like you mentioned the fencing where it would be hidden from public view and that extent?
Yeah.
And also, just to on a two-tier note, I'm a proponent for occupancy in our industrial zone and would like to see businesses move there. However, one of the biggest concerns is what the mayor alluded to, and also Tom, the employment factor.
Right.
So that would be a definite concern.
Yeah. Well, obviously, this isn't a retail business, so there's not going to be sales tax or anything like that from it. There will be, property tax will be an advantage there. It's something that's currently in our redevelopment agency, and therefore there is no property tax coming to the redevelopment agency from it. Once they buy that, the increment that comes off of that will go to the redevelopment agency. On the other hand, in answer to your other question, they will have to comply with all the development standards that any other business would have to. Now, screening is a requirement that is there, landscaping is a requirement is there. All of those things will be required on them. If you're to look at the schedule of performance that is in this agreement, it outlines fairly clearly how it will go down through, and they submit a preliminary site plan to us, and then it becomes a draft site plan, and then a final draft plan, or final site plan. So there's a pretty significant process that they have to go through before they even take title to the property. So there's a number of steps that they have to follow through and succeed, even after we pass this agreement tonight, before they actually take title to the property.
A lot of those conditions will come in through the planning commission when they go for their permits and everything, right?
Yeah, except that this will probably not require planning commission approval. This is something, because the zoning is all in place, correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, but this will be site plan review that will be done by the planning director. Now, they still have to submit to all those conditions.
Right.
The only thing would be is if they ask for something such as to eliminate some sort of screening or something, where there might be something that could be done under a conditional use permit, and then it would have to go back to the planning commission at that point. But if they meet all of the development conditions and requirements that we have, then it could go through site plan review.
My name is Bob Butcher, I'm a planning director. So what are you ex-planning commissioners?
We know who you are.
This site plan process, the site architecture review committee, reviews it and gives sign off on it. So I don't sign off. What I typically do though,
Bob, will you check quick and see if that mic is on? It doesn't sound like it is. Is there on the bottom?
that green line,
Are there two switches down there?
maybe I should be on.
No, it's
No,
not.
it's not on.
See,
It's not on.
Oh, there it is.
There you go. Try that.
No.
There.
Now I'm working. As I said, the architecture review committee is typically the body that approves these projects. I don't. I administer the site plan review process. On referral, these plans would come to the planning commission. Usually on a large project like this, we bring it up to the planning commission. It's not in our code as a requirement. It's just a procedure we follow. But the approval is that they meet our planning specifications with respect to on-site parking and all of the other things, and the architectural standards are complied with. They're home free. If they do not meet one of the requirements with respect to screening, then it does trigger a use permit. That does require a public hearing in front of the planning commission. And this has all been explained to the applicant.
Cleve, one other further question I had in terms of their production here in the city of Newman. Did they give you any kind of perspective on their form fitting and what it is that, I guess, to the maturation of what they explained that they're going to actually do here in Newman until the other site is closed, or what their actual future plans were?
Well, initially they had talked about, if things go well and continue, that they may eventually move their office over here also. And I believe they had said that that would be up to maybe 30 employees at that time if they end up doing that. But they didn't give us a time frame as to when that may happen.
Is this area that's being graded down there next to Garten Tractor, is that part of the property that we're talking
Yes,
about?
yes. What had happened with that is they had came and requested, they were finishing a job in San Francisco, and they did not want to move their equipment, their forms that they had there, back to their home site and then have to move them a couple of months later over to here. So they asked us if they could lease the property on a temporary basis, assuming that this was going to go through, and until such time as it did go through. So we went ahead and let a lease out with them to allow them to do that. And we're actually getting more money. That's $600 a month for them to lease that at that rate, the 4.5 acres. And so that is why that has been done to that out there currently. That was kind of an interim thing. If it goes through and doesn't happen, then they'll have to move everything out. So.
All right, since this is a public hearing, is there anyone wants to say anything? Okay, we'll close the public hearing, and we have a redevelopment agency resolution number 2000, next number, approving disposition development agreement between the agency and Peck and Hiller Company.
Were we gonna put a condition in there about employment?
I would recommend that,
Yeah.
that they would have
Employment
them.
and,
And I think that can be added to the agreement, can it, Tom?
Yeah, and to be enforceable, you'd have to have it in there, and you probably want to specify a number. I've done it
Right.
through a different process where in another city, they do it, incorporate the disposition development agreement and the deed together, but you need it somewhere in writing in that number, and I have a template if our RDA council doesn't have it.
Okay.
But you
I'm
definitely
sure
need
that
that.
they do have that, and we can do that.
So do we have to hold off on this then until that?
No, I think that we
You
can
can say-
ask that provision
But I
before.
think you want to put a number
Right,
of
We-
employees
Yeah,
in
10.
there, and
okay.
Well, I'll go with the recommendation of 10.
That sounds plausible with the 15 to 20, and you didn't even see that many employees on that other side, but if we made that part of the resolution, a condition of 10, I think that would be adequate.
That would be, you mean like 10 working for the whole company, or just 10 over,
10 over here.
10 over
10
here
out
working?
of 10 working in
Right.
Newman.
and was there anything else we're going to add to that? We have the improvements pretty well under control
Yeah,
there.
that'll all.
Okay.
No, that comes through the other process.
All right, so can we have approval of this motion with the additions?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Let's see, we have another motion, City Council, that was redevelopment agency resolution. This is the same thing, City Council resolution number 2000, next number, approving disposition development agreement between the agency and Peck and Hiller Company, with the same additions.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. We will reconvene now as the back to regular session of City Council.
No.
Regular business. Proposed Stevens Ranch 3 annexation, please.
I'm just wondering do we want to hold off on this for a little while? I was expecting the applicant, Mr. Doug Stevens, to be here. I'm not sure, I haven't heard from him today, whether or not he was gonna be here or not, but I talked to him earlier in the week. I think we should. Would you like to wait for a couple more items before you proceed with this, or?
To see if he shows up.
Okay, we'll move this down to the bottom of the regular business and come back to it. Item 12B is consider options for re-roof of West Side Theater and direct staff on how to proceed. Do we have the bids on that?
Yeah. Let me get to my page here. I skipped one. As you know, on December 13th, we received the bids for this project. The council, or at the beginning of the year, we'd recommended and the council approved $40,000 for this project. We were concerned, we had a structural engineer review the roof to see what was needed up there, and it came back that there was some structural work that needed, and the bids therefore came in at $82,000 rather than the $40,000 we had budgeted. Ernie and I went back and reviewed with some help from one of the inspectors from Precision Inspection what was actually in the bid a little bit more, and to make sure that they had understood what was going on, and to see if there were any options. There were some options, and one of those, well, I've pretty much explained what our options here are that we have. One of them is that could some of the structural work be reduced or even eliminated altogether? And they've explained that there are some of the portions of the structural work that were recommended and not actually required And Tim, if you want to help me out with this, I'll let you do that. But one of the things is, because I'm not the technical person, but there's a portion of that, and Ernie, I believe the cost was about, if we eliminated, that was 10th. Help me out with the numbers.
There was,
Yeah, why don't you come up here and help me out with this? We've been meeting with these people for the last 3 days, and Ernie's been making a lot of phone calls to make sure that we could get the information that we needed to try to come to a decision on this.
How many
budget.
bidders did we have on this?
We only had one bidder come in on it, and that presented some of the problem right there alone. But Ernie, can you explain the cost options? I felt that I left the facts over on my desk, and I forgot to bring it over here, but
I'll try to remember. I do know that they broke it down into several options. If we eliminated some of the work, some of the bracing from the parapet, we could deduct $20,000 off of that bid. And then if we did away with the reinforcing of the trusses, there was an additional $22,000. So if you eliminated all this structural work, we were going to be reducing that amount by $42,000. But what they would recommend is that the entire roof be stripped off and then put on the new roof. And the $42,000 bid that they, verbal bid that they gave today included the tearing off of the old roof and replacing it with that Duralast or roof that was specified.
With your expertise, without the structural reinforcement, if we were to do that so that we would fall under the constraints of what we've already budgeted for the roof, what would be your opinion of such a roof?
I would like to defer this to the building professional, Tim Obergaw. He's the one who's the expert on this.
Okay.
But again, if the old roof that's on there, I believe it's rated at 7.5 pounds. Isn't that correct, Tim? 7.5 pounds. Okay, 7.5 pounds a foot. So if you added the new roof onto it, well, then that's why you needed to have the structural reinforcement. If you pulled the 7.5 pounds off of there, then we would be fine and wouldn't have to do anything to the structure.
The new roof is only 1.5 pounds per
Right.
foot. So if you take the 7.5 off and put the new roof back on, you've only got 1.5 pounds up there, as opposed to the 7.5 that is currently there.
But we're talking about waiting till the dry season to do that, right?
The concern with doing that, that's correct, is that I don't think anybody in their right mind would propose to tear that roof off this time of year, just because we're in the middle of the rainy season. And, you know, sure, you can say, well, we're not looking at any rain for a week, but things change too fast. The question is, do we want to save potentially the $40,000 by waiting till March or April and try to work through one more year? And David can answer that the best, because he's been down there with pots and pans and everything else in swimming pools trying to catch the water these last 3 or 4 years, or however long they've been in there, trying to keep it running down there. So that's the concern.
What do you think, Dave? Will make it?
Uh,
Hard to say.
It's one of these things that, they did repair it again this year, didn't they, this fall? After we had that last rain, and weren't they in there doing something after that? With the last rain
I remember they could have been.
And we
yeah.
asked to have it, I don't know if it happened or not.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's one of these things that as the weather changes, it gets warm and gets cold, that roof is so old, it just has things to open up.
Right.
So it's something that we would have to be aware of the whole winter and watch it closely and repair it as necessary. So I don't know what the cost would be of keeping it repaired all winter.
Right. I couldn't say either. It's
Well, that's we're trying to project something we have no control over, and that's the weather per se. In other words, if we had a torrential
Well, we
storm,
know we're going to get
We're gonna
rain
get
someplace
rain,
along the line,
right.
yeah. And what it's doing is not the fact that it may leak, but it's the fact that it's deteriorating the the ceiling and everything else and all the plaster in there is whenever it does leak. What is the, so basically we only have the one, two options actually, 1 and 3. Number 2 is,
Well, we did determine that as Ernie referred to, it's the parapet bracing that is a recommendation and is not required at this time. We could eliminate that, and I believe the number was 20 or 22,000 that would eliminate from the bid if we decided not to do the
so
parapet
we're still in the
bracing.
$60,000
Yeah,
category.
yeah.
Let me ask for one more opinion on this. David?
How many buckets of tar do you have left, David? That's the question.
David Larson, Westside Theater. No, I'm just kidding. 1144T. The only concern, of course, is that the work that we've done inside is susceptible to the rain that's happening outside. And obviously, I don't want the city to go spend $40,000 when they don't have to. That's obviously obvious. It's just that it needs to be addressed to, so it doesn't rain inside. I mean, other than that, I have no problem with it. Waiting until the dry season, I mean, that makes sense. It's we wouldn't ask that of the city, but we would ask them to, as problems arise, to take care of them. I mean, and they may not be that much. I mean, there's a few spots that are really bad, and they've been addressed to, and they've already, like Dave said, they've already reopened, and the water's come in already with the little bit of rain we had in October, I do believe.
Right.
So, but other than that.
Then this 20% figure that within
Thank you,
20% of budget really doesn't apply
Right.
because
The 20% was a guess that I put in before we had a chance to get everybody together, and I had to put this report together prior to, and talking to some people who were kind of thinking that might be what it'd be. It actually turns out to be possibly even more than that, yeah. And these numbers we provided tonight did come from the company that bid the project.
Tim, if we don't do the structural, is it still a safe place to be?
Yeah, I believe it is.
Okay.
Provided you strip the roof off.
Right.
You're borderline now.
But if we try to put anything on top of that without the structural,
No, we
You're
can't do
both-
that.
okay. Yeah, from what it's cost to repair the roof previously, I would say it wouldn't be more than probably a couple of $1,000s over the winter to keep up with it.
To keep up with it.
Yeah.
What would be
So-
the cost then if you stripped it and put a new roof on?
We're down to about $40,000 if we do it
Came in
that
at
way.
42,000 something.
Stripping
was
a
the
new roof.
cost. Yeah,
Yeah.
putting a new roof on.
So that sounds pretty good to me. I don't know. Yeah. Anybody else have any opinions on that?
That'll make it. We should
Okay.
do it.
Number 3 then, right?
Okay. Can we have a motion to approve that option? Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Okay.
He's on the theater board.
Didn't have a financial interest.
Okay.
That's right.
Just want to
That
make
was
sure.
my other
Okay. Okay.
All right. Can we have a motion to
I move that we go with item number 3, rejected bids, perform tear-off and installation of new roof system which would not require the structural work.
I just have a discussion before we confirm that. That's with what David just brought up with the repairs also, that we would cover the repairs through the winter.
Yeah, well,
we'll-
yeah, that's...
Yeah, we'll help them out with that.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll buy David another bucket of tar. So.
It's still part of what's sitting up there now. Okay, we have a motion?
Second.
Second, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No? Okay. Motion passes 4-0. Item number 12C. Which is authorize staff to enter into an agreement with Precision Engineering to revise plans and specifications for downtown streetscape and call for bids.
Last week, December 14th, the Downtown Streetscape Committee met again to discuss possible scenarios and options to hopefully reduce the bid for the downtown streetscape and then allow us to go out and get those bids and actually finally proceed with the construction hopefully this spring. I'd like to run through these items for the council's information to see where we can make these reductions and still not significantly change the downtown streetscape plan. I do have the boards up here that show the downtown streetscape plan. If we need to refer to those, I can, but I'm going to stay here and talk about these if that's all right. The first item is the storm drain system. The cost of this came in between $400,000 and $500,000, depending on which bid. We did receive 2 bids for the project. As we looked at this further, as you may or may not know, our current storm drain system in the downtown area, actually most of it empties into our wastewater system. So what that's doing is it's going out through our wastewater treatment plant, being processed there along with our wastewater. Obviously that's not required for stormwater. The rest of our stormwater simply goes out through and across the wasteway and out into the river. What staff did as we reviewed this is we feel that in order to eliminate that condition and take that the wastewater or the stormwater out of the wastewater system, we would be perfectly fine and authorized to do that using wastewater funds rather than taking that out of the funds that are funded for this particular project. In other words, the redevelopment funds and the funds that we will be receiving from the state. We also think that there's some ways that we can rescope the storm drain project, the storm drain portion of this project, to probably reduce this $400,000 to $500,000 down to probably $200,000 to $300,000 is what we're hoping. And we've reviewed that. We've talked to our engineers on that, and we're looking at various ways that we can do that and still accomplish the same thing that we're trying to accomplish with the stormwater.
So, Cleve, just to interject, that $200,000 to $300,000 to redirect the stormwater out of the wastewater system would come out of the wastewater enterprise funds.
Correct.
And therefore, we would be saving roughly between $400,000 to $500,000 off the entire project for the streetscaping.
Correct. So that's item number 1. The committee discussed that and were in favor of doing that. Didn't have any concerns really with that action. Item number 2, for those who are familiar with the downtown plan, and I believe you have copies of the plan in your packet. One of the items is that the front and back of the sidewalks in the future will have will be brick lined. So there's a row of bricks on the back of the sidewalk next to the buildings, another row of brick on the front of the sidewalk next to the curb. As we discussed this and looked at different things that would be involved with that, it was staff's recommendation, and the committee concurred, that the row of bricks, which is actually a double row of bricks next to the back of the sidewalk, next to the buildings, could be eliminated. And in fact, as we discussed it, I believe the committee came pretty much to a conclusion that it would probably be preferred that were not there. And the reason that they came to that conclusion was that if you go down and look down the line of buildings, you'll see that they're not a straight line. And therefore, that straight line of bricks would probably create an uneven line, would create some discrepancy-looking situation down between the buildings, where the buildings were not straight and the brick line was straight going down through there. And so that recommendation was given that row of bricks, or double row of bricks actually, on the back of the sidewalk should also be eliminated. That's a significant cost. We still have not been able to put, our engineers have not been able to put a concrete number to that, but you can imagine the amount of work that is required for that total project. The sidewalk project, again, is approximately $600,000. So to take all of that brickwork out of it, which is very labor intensive, a lot of handwork laying the bricks one by one down through there, to take that out will eliminate a significant portion. We threw a number out in the committee meeting of approximately maybe another $100,000 that could be eliminated by eliminating that double row of bricks on the back of the sidewalk. We still need to work with that a little bit more, but we feel that that will be a significant amount that can be eliminated. The third items that we came to, and these items were ones that the committee voted that they liked having these in there. They weren't fully in favor of completely eliminating them, but what they wanted to do was look at putting these in there, leaving the base bid the way it currently is, but asking for alternate bids in these three areas that are given here in order to attempt to see how much it costs and see how much we come in with the alternate bids, and therefore at that point be able to decide which one they use after the bids come in.
I just had a quick question while you
Okay.
go through the report. On the initial bid, it's obvious to me by you going by this step by step, there wasn't a breakdown with the cost factors associated with implementation of these certain configurations of the streetscaping. It was just the overall bid.
No,
so to
actually,
speak,
some of
or
the things
some of these things?
there were,
Okay.
actually. For instance, the storm drain system, it was pulled out. We could see how much the storm drain system would cost.
Okay.
The brick line sidewalks were all done, the sidewalks were all done at once, so it didn't say this much for the back row of bricks and this much for the front row of bricks. It just said to replace the sidewalks with brick line sidewalks is this much cost.
Okay.
So certain items were broken out, and you know it was fairly detailed, but not to the extent that would allow us to simply say eliminate the back row of bricks.
So we're
and
looking
do
at
it
an
that way.
elimination process to see how we could break it down
Right.
further to fit
Sure.
it within the budget.
Yeah. The other items that they came up with, at the intersections, as you recall, there are brick pavers that are outlined by regular bricks, and the brick pavers would have the street names inside those. We talked about looking at an alternate to use stamped concrete in those intersections rather than the brick pavers. And again, based on our discussions, there could potentially be a significant decrease in cost for those brick pavers. Possibly 50% of the cost, and if I recall right, that was around $160,000 for those brick pavers. Do you recall, Ernie?
Yeah, it would save us 80,000.
Saved
Yeah,
about
it was
80,000 we were
160,000.
estimating.
That's what it was.
That was you recall, Tom. Okay. Again, that one will be an alternate, which we will say if it comes back and we decide we want to proceed with the brick pavers the way they are, we still can, or we can use the alternate bid, which will be the to use the stamped concrete instead.
I just wanted to point out the one thing on the brick pavers and doing the stamped concrete. One of our committee members went to a conference over in Las Vegas where they spent, several days and showing all the major changes that have been made. And it comes out looking just as if you had the brick pavers. And at the same time, it would save you $80,000.
They've done this on Fremont Street in downtown Las Vegas. I thought it was brick, but
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, they wanted to look at that one that way. Item number 2 is to provide bulb outs at the alleyways and also any driveways that along Main Street. For instance, at the parking lot across from, at the parking lot at the veterinary clinic, there would be a bulb out there, a planter bulb out. This was an item that was not in the original plans for the downtown streetscape. It was added at a later date as they went through and did the plans, and the committee looked at that and they thought it was, they liked the idea that was added. However, it was an additional cost that, as I mentioned, was added after the design was actually done. So they voted to include that as an alternate bid also. They liked the idea of having it in. That one was a smaller item, a total of $29,000 was the cost, I believe, on that one. The third item is in relation to the electrical. The electrical came in quite a bit higher than what we originally expected, and basically what they wanted to do on that one is have us go back and look at several ways, if there may be ways that electrical can be reduced. One item that was brought up at the meeting that one of the subcontractors had talked to one of the committee members, and it was an item that we actually didn't come across in our review. Originally, the electrical and irrigation was designed to go in what we would call the brick raceway, or the brick line on the outside of the sidewalk next to the curb. This committee member said that the subcontractor he talked to said that if that would have been done that way, it would have eliminated approximately $50,000 from the bid. We haven't had a chance to go back and look at that and say for sure whether or not that is true. The electrical and the irrigation, he said, is in the street rather than in that raceway. That creates some concern for us also. If an irrigation line is broken that's going to a tree, that means that we need to dig up the street to get to that, rather than dig up a row of bricks, 3 or 4 feet long, and hopefully be able to get down and
That was the
repair
whole
that.
idea of putting the bricks in
Right,
there in the first
right.
place. Yeah.
So we need to go back and review that item with our engineer and see what changes could possibly be made in that area. They mentioned that there may also be some changes with some of the electrical equipment that was spec'd that may enable us to actually reduce the cost also. The final 2 items that are being discussed are to increase the bid period. Originally we had just barely a 30-day bid period, as I recall right, but to increase that bid period to between 45 and 60 days to allow them more time to actually bid the project. And then I'll also extend the construction time up to 5 months rather than the initial 90 days, I believe is what it was. So we've, after talking to the construction contractors, we're not convinced that this item is going to be significant as far as extending the time periods. Originally, when we had talked to them right after the bid, they had indicated that they thought it would be. When we called them in and sat down and discussed this issue with them, they said no, it wasn't a significant factor. So it's all a matter of the timing and who you talk to, I guess, whether or not that will be a significant item in the final bid process. We need to go back and proceed with this project. The council, I know, has wanted this to happen. We're a year overdue where we thought we would be. I know a lot of us thought that this would be done by now. Staff would like authorization to receive a proposal from Precision Engineering, who was the original engineer on the project and developed the plans, to make these changes to the plans and then allow us to call for bids. My assumption is that we will hopefully have these plans back to you. What we want to do is get them back to you for your first meeting in January and allow you to authorize staff to call for bids at that time.
Just wanted to also let you know that the committee was unanimous in their decision to go ahead with these changes.
Yes.
Sir, please.
You need to come forward.
Can you come up here, please?
State your name and address.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the council and the public tonight. My name is Randy Sasser from Tracy, California, and we did a downtown redevelopment, and there were 3 errors that we made, and we all know the old saying that if what you didn't learn from history, you may repeat yourself. I would like to add 3 items that you may add into your consideration or add to the engineer's specs. One being is that when you put in the street trees, that you make sure that you put the cones to run the roots straight down, because we had the roots come vertical or horizontal and break our streets up. And maybe you people are all past this. I'm just a guest tonight, but this is something that really caused us a lot of grief. And secondarily, they put in fruit trees, which were beautiful during the summer and they flowered and so forth, but then they dropped red berries and caused a nightmare on cars and so forth. So make a very close choice on the trees that you do. Even they may not look so wonderful, but make sure you get annual trees. And thirdly, if you're going to have trees that drop leaves, as you do these bulbous situations on the corners, you'll find that they will block up the storm drains, and you'll have yourself a flooding effect and you can cause really serious problems in intersections, even just for trespassers or just passers by, or even cars and sliding. And I just wanted to add that because it's something that we learned the hard way. And I just wanted to give you that opportunity from our bad experience.
Mr. Salter, if I may, I just wanted to thank you for your comments. You're from the city of Tracy?
Yes.
And you were part of the process for some streetscaping there in downtown Tracy?
Yes, the downtown redevelopment.
Well, I certainly appreciate your comments for one.
And I just wanted to say those were things that, they're so simple that you just pass it on down the committee line. And we had this planner that thought it'd be beautiful to have these white flowers, but then we had these red berries that fell all over and caused crows to come down, and these things don't sound like very much, but in the long run, they're a real nightmare for a city. So please give the people that know these type of things that kind of latitude to give that input. I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm just a guest tonight. Thank you very much.
We went through this with the previous trees that were here before these trees. And basically, these trees that are there now are going to stay, more added to them. And they are, well, yeah, they've already been taken care of. There's no problem with that. It's just, thank you very much. Okay, everything else?
I think that's it, unless there's any other discussion or questions that the council might have. As I say, we do need to get this going and then bring it back to council, allow us to call for bids in January.
Okay, do you have a motion to approve the resolution?
I move that we authorize staff to enter into agreement with Precision Engineering to revise plans and specifications for downtown streetscape and call for bids.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Before we get to the next item, since we were talking about Precision Engineering, I'd like to commend them for their new office building that they have. The job they did on it's really fantastic. I was wondering which parts you're going to paint yellow and which part red, but no, it looks great. And I'm sure the next building you're working on there is going to be just as good, if not better. Thank you very much.
I'd like to echo that. Kelly and Steve, you did a tremendous job in keeping with what our city is looking like, and it just looks tremendous. Again, thanks.
Okay, item 12D, review and approve updated plans for development of Skateboard Park. Steve?
This is an item that I can't seem to get to go away. It keeps coming back to haunt us. But I think that I've finally come to a conclusion and got to a reasonable solution of what we can do to proceed with this project. What I am asking, however, is for the council to approve to expand the area. As you noted, our current area that we had was approximately 40 by 50 feet. Actually went up to approximately 60 feet. I would like to request that it be expanded to this 40 foot by 80 foot. In order to do that, that will require us to remove at least the one swing set that is over there. As I looked at that, that is probably not going to be a significant factor because of an item that I'll discuss later on tonight's agenda. As you know, we are making plans to actually move the preschool out of the facility over at the youth center, and in the future have their new home in the old schoolhouse, which is scheduled to be brought down and placed on our property next to the library. So what we're kind of seeing is a transition away from that type of activity in that area where the younger kids, preschoolers, even elementary schoolers would use that type of equipment, and move that park and the youth center into more of a teen center, a teen activity area. So moving out that swing set, and eventually once we get the preschool moved out of that area, it's my anticipation that the other playground equipment which was moved for this skate park would also move out of that area, and that will allow this to be focused more as a teen area rather than preschool and elementary school area. So increasing that and removing that swing set, in my mind, does not really go against what our plans are, and it actually works well in moving that towards a teen area, teen recreation area. We would need to obviously increase the pad site also to do that from what we had originally planned up to a 40 by 80 foot pad site. We want to send out and get quotes for the structures which we are requesting. I've included some maps in your packet which show the potential items. Let's see which one. The first one that you see, that one would cost approximately $17,000, and let me see if we got the.
Are you referring to the
first map
sketch?
Yeah. It says ramp list. The first item is quarter pipe.
Okay.
That would be approximately $17,000 if we upgrade from. If you look on the last page of the report, there are some options for upgrading the structures, and my recommendation and the recommendation of the people that we're working with is that we go to the steel framing and the 10-gauge steel surfacing. Those two items, they said, will significantly increase the life of your park. You do not have the problems with screws coming loose on the wood, because these items, as I understand it, are actually welded together. So it eliminates the screws coming loose and things like that. You paint them. That's basically the only maintenance that is required on them, is to keep them painted. Just to let you know what it does to, if we were to stay with the wood frame for this particular item, it would be $10,000 for this project. Okay. If we increase to the steel framing, it increases by 40%, so it put it up to $14,000. And if we increase and do the 10-gauge steel for the surfacing, it increases another 30%, up to the $17,000. So those are the changes, but in my mind, those are well worth it. They're items that we simply do that, and with the exception of occasional painting to keep it looking good, these structures will have a much longer lifespan than the wood does, and they would work very well.
Now this $17,000, that includes the pad too? I mean,
That does not include the concrete, and as you recall, our original budget that we put out for this was the $17,000. I have not been able to get a quote on what the pad site would cost yet. I do know that one of the concrete companies in the area has already told us that their drivers have agreed to deliver the concrete on their own time, so for free. So basically all we would be paying for would be the material on that. I'm not sure yet. We haven't been able to determine if we might be able to come up with some volunteers in the terms of contractors in the area that might be willing to help us with pouring that, so we eliminate some of the labor in actually pouring it also. But it's my estimate that that could cost up to, again, an additional $17,000 or $18,000, depending on how we're able to do that. It could be less if we're able to get a lot more volunteer work and do some of it without having to actually pay for the labor on it.
So you alluded to an additional cost with the padding of upwards to $17,000.
I'm guessing $17,000 to $18,000.
So we're roughly in the neighborhood of $35,000. I have to comment on this issue simply because it's something that's been around, and you alluded to it haunting us, and you come back to the council now with the proposal of making it really nice. Those have been my thoughts all along. And at the time I became a planning commissioner, this was something that I spoke about. I think it's an investment, so if we were to spend the money now, it's certainly with the skateboarders and bladers that we have in town, it's just that, it's an investment that we'll see that double or triple in terms of the reward it will bring to the youth. So with that, you bringing up the cost factor of making it such that it's strong and reinforced under the $17,000 guideline. I would presume this was brought about with the committee with the kids with the skateboarders.
Well, I have not. I have gotten one of the kids that I call him kind of my representative because he works very closely with all of the knows a lot of the skaters.
Okay.
He's the one that actually put me onto this company. I'd been working with some others, and he referred me to them, and he actually recommended this $10,000 project. He thought it would be a good one. The only thing that this does not allow us to do, if we go to this project, as you recall in the original design, we showed the pad site, and then in addition to that, a half pipe being constructed. If we do this, this will not include that half pipe. Now that does not preclude us from coming back and saying that that could be added at a later date. It could be easily added. And I'm sure that these people actually do free design work. I could get them to design that in. Say, if we wanted to add a half pipe, how would you add it to this?
And what would be the
this
cost
work?
consideration?
And then as far as cost, I have the cost for it. I could pull that out. I didn't bring it with me tonight, but it's simple. They have each of these structures broken down cost by cost, so I can simply go to their price guide, and it'll show me what it'll cost for this particular structure.
Is that an intricate? I know they do a lot of maneuvering. I've watched the kids, watched them in the city. Is that intricate to some of their X Games type of maneuvers they like to do?
The key in adding the half pipe is that you're getting to the how can I put it, the more expert skaters. Your beginning and even your intermediate skaters are not going to work on that half pipe.
Okay.
And that's why I felt, that it was more important. My guess is that the majority of the skaters are probably going to fit in that beginner to intermediate category.
And at some
there
point,
are going to be some expert, and if it becomes that successful, and perhaps the proposal that I think we should present to those skaters that really want that is, go out and do some fundraisers and raise the funds to actually put that in, and then we'll give you the spot to put it.
Well, I attended a League of Cities committee meeting on skateboarding when we were down at our last League of Cities meeting. There was about 60 cities represented there, and they all had skateboard parks, were thinking about having them, or were in the middle of building them. The ones that had the skateboard parks came up and they said, if you're going to do it right. And if you don't do it right, it's going to cost you more in the long run, because some of those parks that are only 3 or 4 years old are deteriorating. And so that's why I'd like to see us go along with the upgrade. And then also there's been a lot of comments about dragging our feet and everything else. If we had gone out, that's a learning process. If we had gone out originally and built that thing right away, they wouldn't be getting the thing that they're getting right now. They're getting a much better skateboard park. So I think Cleve's done a tremendous job on this.
Now, all of these items that are affixed to this concrete pad can be removed without doing damage to the pad, or?
Yeah, they're not. They're weighted down. They're heavy enough that they're not actually fastened to the concrete pad. They're set on there, and they can actually be moved. But
So if it doesn't work out, well, we can just remove them, use it for basketball or whatever.
yeah,
Okay.
it could be used for something else.
I don't really anticipate it not working out, but
Well, you don't know what you're gonna run into.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
an option that we talked
that's
about
true.
a
But
long time ago.
that's true. Was there any further on your
Not
report?
really, unless you have any questions. What I want to do is get the actual quotes, be able to firm up the cost for the pad site, and see what we can do on that, and then bring this back and have the council approve the final amount. Then I'm estimating right now that's going to be around $35,000, but I'm not sure.
Okay, I would move that we bring this back to staff to review and approve the updated plans, and come back to us with the formulated plan.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Item 12E.
Thanks for all your work, Cleve.
We will get this thing.
I hope so. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Scheduled date for joint council planning recreation meeting.
As the council knows, we had this scheduled actually for December 5th, and then based on what happened with the elections and being short a council member, and now we're short a planning commissioner member, we put that off. It's my recommendation that we move this, and we need to get this scheduled. When I told the Parks and Recreation Commission that we were canceling the joint meeting. They were disappointed. They understood but disappointed. They are anxious to meet and talk about some issues that we need to move on, especially with some of the development that is coming up and park issues and et cetera. What my recommendation is that, if we want to look at a Tuesday again, that's what we'd done last time. I know Tom had brought up, Councilmember Applegate at one point, looking at a Saturday. And it's at the council's discretion what you would like to do. I would like to move it towards the end of January if possible, with the holidays and et cetera, to try and give us some time to...
Will we have a new planning commission by
Will
then?
this give us time to put up applications?
We have already begun advertising for that. Is that right, Judy? No, but we're getting ready to.
Okay.
That's true. We couldn't advertise yet because we didn't have the vacancy until tonight. But we are ready to do that, and we anticipated, based on what we looked at, that if the council wanted to set up interviews for, say, the 23rd of January for that planning commission meeting, that should give us time to advertise that and get applications in, and then you could appoint on the 23rd and then consider having a special meeting either the 30th. There are 5 Tuesdays in January, or any other day actually towards the end of January, but probably sometime after that date of January 23rd, which would give us time to recruit for the planning commissioner.
So we're looking at a date past the 23rd for the joint meeting.
That's what I'd recommend, unless you want us to try and move it quicker than that.
No, why not toward the end of that week? If we appoint someone on Tuesday, why?
The 23rd, yeah.
Well, I'll have to allude to, if you're considering a special meeting sometime during the week, if we look at that following Tuesday that you have suggested, the 30th, or a Thursday, if you want to make it the Thursday after the 23rd.
Yeah, we do need, that was, that would be the 25th. Yeah,
Yeah,
we were
25th.
planning to hold this in the Memorial Building because with three boards, it makes it, we'll have a larger group. But
What about the Saturday after the 23rd?
that would be the 26th.
The 27th is a Saturday, which is
27th,
applicable.
Is
Uh-uh.
a Saturday?
That's right, yeah,
Weekend
27th.
day,
Is
yeah.
Saturday good with?
Saturday's good with me.
It's fine with me.
Yeah, we have to,
Sounds like maybe the building is rented also.
so we have to find a consideration for a date.
Would you like us
How
to,
about the theater?
On the 20, I don't think there's anything on the 27th, as far as I know.
my only concern with that, and it's not a criticism at all, is that the lighting is not really
It isn't
as
good.
good for that type of meeting that we would like to do with. We want to be able to show some plans and some diagrams and maps and et cetera, and it's, again, it's not a criticism of the theater,
No,
it's just
I
that it's
agree.
not designed for that type of meeting.
The last one that we had at the fire station. And that worked
may
out
be-
real well.
That may be a possibility. Either that, or we can check the schedule and see what the first Saturday is that's available. Maybe the first Saturday in January. What
Well,
about-
if we're looking at expediency, when the mayor alluded to trying to have it right after we get someone appointed for the commission, I'm agreeable to meeting at the firehouse. I'm not opposed to that. The meeting place is not really a problem.
Yeah.
It's just setting up the
Plenty of
date.
room and it's light.
Yeah, that would work. I mean, we can check and make sure
Let's
that they
just
don't have
say
anything, and they
a-
usually don't on a
A
Saturday.
date as near as possible to the 23rd.
Okay, and you want a
Some-
Saturday?
Yeah, well, I think that,
Well, we all agree with the 27th, so.
yeah, I think that's,
Okay. As long as the fire station is available, then we could look at the 27th at the fire station for that meeting. Okay. Hours, what, you want to start, say 9 o'clock in the morning, or?
what do you feel is the time going to take to do that?
I would probably look at maybe going from 9 to noon on a Saturday.
Okay, sounds good.
I'm agreeable
So that
with
we
that.
hopefully don't take up the whole Saturday. That gives us some time to really get into some subjects. We have I believe, 3 subjects that we want to discuss, and I think that probably at least an hour on each one would be a good timing. We'll try to limit our agenda so that we don't give us adequate time to discuss each of the issues the way we want to.
Anything else on item 12E?
I think that's it.
Okay.
All the
Item
other
12.
commissions were favorable for Saturday meeting? I mean, they all could make it too, or?
We didn't really discuss Saturday meetings with the other, I don't think you did at the planning commission, did you, Bob? But I think, I think that,
Probably a
that
better
should be
chance of getting
fine.
everyone, more people on Saturdays than
Right.
you would during the week.
Yeah, good chance.
So,
We can propose that to them, so.
you don't mind coming down on Saturday, do you, Bob? Item 12F is draft street tree plan informational.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I really wanted to jump up when the gentleman spoke up about
I wanted to hold this up myself, talking about the trees.
I'm going to make this really quick. It's been a long evening for you, but what we had, of course, was the issue with respect to adding a tree to the list, our street tree plan. We found that over the years the plan had kind of deteriorated and had become a loose leaf collection of things with pictures, and there were some maps in there that hadn't really reflected what had been built in a number of years, and so it was kind of felt that if we're going to add a tree to it, we need to have a plan to put the tree to, and what we came up with is a considerably more refined document than what we had before. The essence of the plan is, with respect to departing from past practice, we've had different trees named on different streets throughout the city, and it's become kind of an issue. Well, they don't like the tree on their street and they want to change it if it dies or something like that, and it's always been a hassle. So what we came up with is a concept that has designated arterial corridors in the city where we want to have a themed tree, and Merced would be an example where we have an arterial. The ring road, the road that goes around the Sherman Parkway, the new development, and that would have a designated tree on it. The other street trees would be flexible. They would have to come off of the list, but if a tree was going to be, a new tree was going to be planted in the subdivision, or a tree needed to be replaced, it could be replaced off of the selected list. We've come up with a couple, and by the way, that list is in Chapter 3, which is 2 pages, and it's really the essence of the street tree plan. And the rest of this is just information about trees and policies and practices and how to manage trees in the city. So it's kind of a public information, a policy guide in terms of how we're going to make decisions about trees, how we add trees to the list, and that sort of thing. This will be coming back to you. It's given to you at this time for information. The Planning Commission is looking at it. The Architecture Review Committee is looking at it. We've had a lot of citizens who've had some interest in this as well. We have had it reviewed by our Cooperative Extension Service with respect to trees that were more appropriate to Newman. We've looked at it from a public works perspective with respect to maintenance, berries, and leaves. And we've also gone one step further and looked at it from the standpoint of the interference of trees with utility lines. So we can add that to Tracy's list of no-nos. But I think we've touched all the bases. There's a couple of things that have been missed. I've been advised of, and they will be corrected in the final version. One of them is that we took the palm tree out, and we found out that there are palm trees in areas that we're going to be annexing sometime in the future, so we need to have policies back in there with respect to palm trees. We need information on soils because we use that as a criteria, and there was also a question about parking lots and trees inside of parking lots, and we have policies in our zoning code. We need to have it in one place so people can pick it up as a reference, so that'll be added to this as well. I'm looking for comments, criticisms, direction informally at this point in time. If you have any ideas or anything you need to add, think we should add, I'd be most happy to take a look at it and talk to you about it. This has been a collective effort of a lot of staff people and just interested people in Newman. I never knew there was that much interest in trees in Newman until I took this on. At any rate, this is for your information. There's no action required. We'll be bringing it back at a later date in January.
I'd like to ask Ernie a question. When this gentleman from Tracy mentioned about cone planting to make sure the roots go down, are you doing that? Or because one of the trees that is the city has roots coming up in my front yard. Oh, okay.
So there is a preventive measure that we do use.
It depends on when that tree was planted too.
Well, this tree was planted about, I don't know, what, 11 years ago?
So,
Yeah, Bob, on this, someone here had requested the city had a sycamore tree.
yes. Or the London plane tree, as it's otherwise referred to.
Yeah, that
Was this approved, or?
Yes, we've added it to the list. It met the criteria with respect to how we evaluate trees as being appropriate street trees in the city of Newman.
You know, I have a giant sycamore in my front yard, and it's beautiful in the summertime, except that every time the wind blows, limbs fall down all the time, and it drops these little balls, and the leaves don't all fall at once. They fall anywhere from the 1st of November till the middle of June, something like that. And it's a very dirty tree. It's a beautiful tree, but and the bark sheds too.
What we looked at, the London plane tree has got a couple of pros and cons to it. And by the way, in the back of this, there's some appendices, and we went through all of the trees that were part of different lists, compiled them, and there's a pro and con with respect to limitations, positive and negative things about a particular tree. And we did that because people not only are looking at these trees from the perspective of street trees, but also from the standpoint of planting these trees in their yards. And we hope that that's why we call it an urban forest plan as well, because it gives people some direction in that regard. When I made a mark on the wall, and this is something that's, where we have trees or streets that aren't designated at some point in time, we'll be putting trees on them. Sherman Parkway is an example. Where we have wide corridors, not sidewalks per se, but like on Sherman Parkway, we're going to be using, it'll be a part of a drainage facility through there, and it's a much wider corridor. Because the London plane tree is so large and so prominent, they're very stately with respect, and they grow fairly rapidly. That was what I recommended to put on the outer corridor, where we have plenty of space around them, and we're not looking at a downtown maintenance problem. They do have some downsides, but every tree that we have on the list has some problems with it. And I found that I had favorite trees too, and I was really disappointed that my buddy Ernie made me take them off the list. But that's the way this business works. Well, he has to take care of it.
Again, I'd like to ask Ernie, when I first came on the council, you and I took a tour of the city, and we were out at Creek Canyon, and you mentioned the problems that we're having with the trees out there. Are those trees off the list? Good.
Yes. He took a lot of, in fact, I almost didn't have any street trees left when he got finished.
Well, I just wanted to comment that since Bob is here, I have two of these packets. I had one previously while still chairman of the commission, and under the planning commission, it was brought to our attention back in an October meeting by Henry and Joanne Marks. They were the ones who came before us about a question about a sycamore tree, and they alluded to the historic nature of their home also with the trees, and thus I think partly out of that came this comprehensive document that Bob has worked on so diligently. And so just commenting on that, I'd like to thank them for bringing that to our attention, because of course it is something that we will ongoingly deal with, and it's nice to have something that's updated as we continue with our processes. So,
And there happen to be some sycamore trees in their area anyway. So.
Yes, exactly.
Anything else?
No.
That's it. Questions?
Again, this will be ongoing for another month here at least, and,
Again, if people in the community, there's copies of this in the city. People want to take a look at it. They have some ideas. This is the time to make a mark here. Wow.
You need extra copies?
I can give it to a new planning commissioner, hopefully.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Item 12G, City Council reorganization, election of Mayor Pro Tem and Council Committee appointments. We've, in the past, the Mayor Pro Tem has been the person with the longest tenure. I don't know if we want to keep that up, or any objections to that, or? Okay. Tom? Any? Okay. Can we have someone make a motion to, who would be Mayor Pro Tem?
Who actually has our longest
Bob
tenure? Would that be
Martina.
Bob Martina? Okay, I would move that Bob Martina, as the most tenured council member, be elected to the position of Mayor Pro Tem.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Bob Martina is our new Mayor Pro Tem. Council Committee appointments. Let's see here. All right, shall we run them through these things, or?
that's fine, yeah, just
Okay.
go through them.
Mayor Pro Tem presides at meetings of the City Council in the absence of the mayor, so we know who that is. StanCog, this is a very important committee. I attended their meeting this month. Unfortunately, I don't see too well at night, so I don't like to drive to Modesto at night, if at all not possible. So anyway, Tom has said that he will take that. We have no objections. Anyone else?
Do we need an alternate for this?
Yes,
Yeah,
I would recommend that you have an alternate, yeah.
You are the alternate right now.
Well,
That's
yeah,
what I was
I
told
guess
the
so.
other night, yeah.
That's what I know. I'm not sure when that happened, but that's what they told me too. But, so I guess
And-
I am currently. But the key is with the alternate, I would encourage someone, if you appoint an alternate from the council, and I am 100% behind that. I don't want to be that if I don't have to be. But the alternate probably ought to try to attend every meeting if they can, or as much as possible, because as Councilmember Reed alluded to, this is an extremely important committee. As you know, the 1.4 million that we got for our downtown streetscape was approved by this committee. That's where it came from. There are, as you know, this last year the governor has approved millions of dollars for transportation. Most of that money, there's some that won't come through this StanCog, but most of that money, 99% of it, will come through StanCog. So there's a lot of money out there. There are a lot of projects. There's a lot going on with transportation right now. There's some movement going on as far as creating the county-wide transportation plan and various changes to that really impact the city, and either positively or negatively if we don't get our input on that. So this is an extremely important committee, both in obtaining dollars for local products or projects, and also making sure that we fit well within the county-wide plan that is developed. So I just want to stress that if there is someone that can attend some of these meetings, or a major portion of these meetings as an alternate with Councilmember Applegate, I think that would be terrific, and stay up to speed on what is going on with that committee.
These are held, are they held on Wednesday all the time?
Yes, generally. Yeah.
I know that this one was, so.
I can volunteer to fill that coming in, it's the second Wednesday of each month, it's a monthly meeting.
It's a monthly meeting, and I think it is the
Because
second.
I can just incorporate it into my commute, it's in Modesto, generally
Yeah.
held in Modesto.
It's at the, in the city council, county supervisor chambers in the basement of the 10th Street
Okay,
place.
yeah. I can incorporate that into my commute as as an alternate. I'm certain I can make
Okay.
most of those meetings.
You have to come pick up Dave, though. Don't forget. If it's dark.
No, I'm not, Tom goes, I don't have to go. Okay.
So is that what we're looking at there on
Yeah,
that one?
Tom is the representative and Tim's the alternate.
Tom,
Okay?
Tom.
SCEDCO, this is the Stanislaus County Economic Development Corporation. SCEDCO's bylaws designate the mayor as SCEDCO board director. Mayor may appoint designee. I've been serving on this SCEDCO committee for the last 2 years, and with no objections, I'll continue on that one. That's a daytime. That meets at lunchtime usually. So
That's a good one too. As you know, Councilmember Reed, I think anyway, is that there's talk about perhaps merging that committee, SCEDCO, with the Workforce Investment Board, which
yes.
also has some funding behind it to actually do some work beside, even more than what SCEDCO has. So
okay, the CVOC, or the Central Valley Opportunity Center Board. I've talked to former Mayor Janet Carlson about this, and she's going to get back with me. She's been on these things for like 12 years or so, and she just can't get up there to these meetings anymore. I'm not sure just when they meet. In fact, I don't think it's a regularly. Judy, do you know?
It's either just as they need to.
Yeah, anyway, would anyone be interested in that? It's a job training center, is basically what it is, and yeah. So if someone would like to take that, it's not something that
When do they meet? Do we know?
We don't
No,
know.
We don't know.
It's not. I can't honestly say whether it's day, night, or a certain day of the week or anything.
Is there anybody in the community that you could think of that might be in it, like maybe Bush Road?
I'm going to ask Janet about that. Can we leave that one blank for the time being? Since
Like
it's,
Bush
Well,
Road.
what'll happen is Janet will remain on that until we change it.
Yeah.
So
I was thinking, somebody like Bush Rose might be interested.
possibly. Janet's supposed to call me back this week again, so I'll find out. City Selection Committee. This committee is established to pick members and alternates for city position on LAFCO. Mayors are designated by statute. All right, that solved that one, didn't it? And the next one, item number 6, is
That's
also...
David also.
Yeah.
Let's come all together.
City County Committee. This committee's membership is open to all council members and board of supervisors. It's an informational organization which meets bi-monthly within Stanislaus County, meets noon at various county locations. You're probably more familiar with this than I am.
yeah, this one, I attend this meeting, as a lot of the city managers do. Not very many council members, on occasion they will, but not very many council members, but you're always welcome. I will make sure that you're invited. This is generally what it is a lunch meeting, meets every other month, and various topics, sometimes good, sometimes there's not a lot that comes out of them. But I will inform you of these. There's no real appointment necessary here, but I'll inform you of these when these meetings come up, and you're definitely invited. There are usually 2 or 3 of the Board of Supervisors attend these, so it is a chance to meet them and talk to the Board of Supervisors if you wish to. So I will let you know when those come
I'm
up.
free for during the day.
Okay. Number 8 is the League of California Cities Central Valley Division Executive Committee. The mayors represent the city executive committee, which meets on a monthly or bi-monthly basis. You've been going to those meetings, Cleve, or do you want to continue that, or?
Well, I don't have to. I mean, I mean, you would still be our representative to that. Obviously, you'll be continuing to go because you're an officer on
Yeah,
that.
right, yeah.
And so there's really no need to appoint someone else to that. I will probably continue to go along with you to that, just to see if there's anything that you need me to do and things like that. So, and as the as the council knows, in the upcoming year, David will be the president of that of the executive committee. So.
School liaison representative.
Well,
Tom, you were,
on Measure E,
yeah, Measure E.
right, and we're still on the committee.
Anybody, John?
Sure, I'd like to get on that one.
Okay, how about, Tom, you wanted to, or?
Yeah.
This is during the day, right?
Right.
That they usually meet?
Mhm.
Okay.
I've been working very close with the school board and the superintendent, and we have that, building the school coming up too. And
Okay, so Tom Applegate and John Panacea for that. Wastewater treatment plant task force. Myself and Tom are on this. Frankly, I've never been to it. Have you been to a meeting, Tom?
no, they keep canceling them.
And I never heard about
The only one they had, I was,
Okay,
I think I was in Hawaii or someplace.
And these meetings are held quarterly, theoretically, at 10 a.m. Tim, that kind of precludes you, doesn't it?
It does.
Okay, I didn't know what
If it's
shift
during the
you work,
weekday,
or-
if it's during the weekday. it
Yeah,
does.
it will be during the week, yeah.
Yeah, that
I'll
precludes
stay
it.
on it.
Okay, and, John, can you be on
Yeah.
that? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Since there's never any meetings, I don't.
I think in the past when this was set up, there was more of a need and they met on more of a regular basis. Our wastewater treatment plant are actually running fairly smoothly. There may be some things that we'll need to convene for in the near future regarding our salinity study.
Actually, we should put Ernie on it.
Well, he is on it already.
okay.
Ernie and myself are also, I guess I'm an ex officio member of that, but anyway, we're on that committee. And but yeah, there are some issues coming up that we probably will convene that committee and discuss different avenues that we might be taking, so.
All right, the Economic Development Action Committee, reviews and recommends, EDA projects. Committee meets as necessary approximately once a year in Modesto. Tim, can you
Sure.
take that since?
Yeah, I'll
I'm
fill
sure
that.
that'll be in the evening if they do meet.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it says approximately once a year, so that's, can handle that one. Cruz Landing Airfield, West Side Economic Development. This was something that I was appointed to by the County Board of Supervisors, so for the time being, I'll stay there, I guess. From what they said when we were up there the other day, that this was going to be a series of about 4 or 5 meetings, something like that. So it's not a continuing thing as it's set up right now, but I don't know what'll happen later. The other one is Tosca, which Tom is on. You want to stay there, Tom?
Sure.
Okay. And Solid Waste Task Force. Have you been to any of their meetings, Tom? Okay. You want to stay there?
Okay.
Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to continue that, be the liaison there if there's no objections. Okay. And the West Side Theater liaison is Councilmember Martina, who isn't here. Never thought about that. We could have given him all kind of committees there. So,
I think he does enjoy
yeah,
serving on that
we'll
committee.
continue
yeah.
that. Okay. And, all right, I guess that's it.
And there's nothing to say that these have to be stay for a year or 2 years or whatever. If at any time the council wishes to change these, they can bring that up, talk to the
If, if
mayor.
it runs into a scheduling problem with someone, we'll work around that.
Yeah, well, just like, if you want to get off the airfield, I'd be glad to do that one.
I knew you were, and I asked him about that, and the answer I got was, well, you were appointed to it.
Oh,
That's the only answer I got from him, so.
If it gets to be too much for, any of you guys, let me know.
Okay.
Oh, good, you can have all mine.
Are we going to, we'll go back to 12A, we were waiting for Doug, which
Yeah,
is
that was
obviously
to
not
the
going to be
next-
here.
Yeah.
I apologize to our planning director, Bob Borchard. That was the main item that he came down here for tonight. I'm not sure how you want to handle this. Perhaps, I guess you can consider it and go ahead and discuss it, but I really think that if you want to give this fair consideration, perhaps you might also need to hear Mr. Stevens' point of view on it. Of course,
I have a vantage
Councilmember
point
Parker
there.
has already heard that.
But I prefer to wait and hear from Doug himself.
So
Can we-
it's up to you, but
Can we table this to a later
yeah.
date then?
It's a non-action item, so, I mean, I don't have any
Right.
problem with continuing it if so everyone else on the council will be able to have the opportunity to hear from Doug.
I concur.
And my comments are already,
We'll have
Yeah,
this
if you
for a
would.
meeting when you're coming down anyway, Bob, so you don't have to make a special trip for the next. All right. All right, we have items, from the city manager.
thanks, Alan.
where's the agenda?
I lost my agenda here somewhere.
There you go.
I know, it's here.
Items from the city manager.
Okay, item from the city manager, sorry.
Just wanted to go through a few things. I'll let the council know what I want to try to put together over the next couple of weeks is, and I think I alluded to this earlier, but I want to get into a process to create a report to submit to you regarding projects. I'm going to attempt to get that going so that you get that either every Friday or every other Friday, so you will get that report and have that in writing as far as the progress we are making on projects. Just to run down through a few that I was writing down here during the meeting. The streetscape, I think there's no more update needed on that. You pretty much know where we're at on that. The Demari property, just quickly, you noticed that I know Councilmember Fantasia said he got back from being out of town today, and that's the first thing he noticed as he came into town. Hey, where'd those buildings go? Been there ever since he's been here. We did run into a problem, though. I've talked to a couple of you about that. We did run into some contamination on the site. This was something that was not completely unexpected. The soils report showed the potential that there was something there. We have had a consultant out looking at that, and we are waiting for their report back on it. Initial report is that it is not anything that is significant. Looks like probably under $5,000 to clean up. And that is right in line with what was reported to us and what we expected when we purchased the property. So it's not, from what we're looking at right now, it's not significant. It is in line with what we expected to see. And we will proceed, unless council tells me different, we will proceed to have that cleaned up without coming back to council. We'll do it as part of what council has authorized us to do. Originally, we estimated that total project to run up to $50,000, and we are well within that. So unless council wants to see something differently, we will proceed to get that cleaned up immediately. Inyo Avenue, we are finalizing the contract to get the contractor going on that. So that should, depending on the weather, should proceed. We're still working with the contractor to see when he wants to proceed with that project. The Skateboard Park, we discussed that one this evening, and we will move forward with that one. Those are the main ones that I had, unless the council has questions on any other projects. Of course, the theater we discussed. Many of these that are on the front burner right now. We discussed in tonight's meeting, or were on our agenda. So unless there's any questions, those are the main items that I had.
Any questions? Nope. Okay. The next is items from city council members. Let's start down there with you, Tim.
Well, I feel pretty privileged to have had the opportunity to still be able to serve on the council. I certainly was happy doing the job I had been able to do on the commission. I'd just like to thank all those persons that supported me. I'd like to thank the council, although when we certainly had to open it for the general public, I thought that was always in good fairness. I'm never opposed to that. However, with that, I think certainly we gave the people of the city the opportunity to speak because of the recent election, and I felt highly encouraged of the number of supporters that I did have. And so I just wanted to thank them publicly tonight and assure them that the things that I spoke about, the commitment that I have, will continue. So thank you.
Tom?
Yes, Kelly Heslop says that if you think the building that we told him that looked very nice tonight was really nice, he said, "What do you see the one down by Mel's when it's finished?" So he said it's going to be even better than that one. And I'd like to welcome Timothy Parker to the council. I had the pleasure of working with Tim on the planning commission, and we got a few things done there. So anyhow, welcome.
Thanks, sir.
John?
I just also like to welcome Tim. That's about it. All I have.
I already welcomed Tim. Now what do I do?
That was at the beginning of the meeting.
I'd just like to say I talked to Joe Gomez today, who owns the old Moose building next to the ones we tore down there, and he's interested in making some alterations to the wall that's visible now that since we tore our buildings down. And it's a kind of a classical looking thing, and he wants to take, besides fixing up the wall, take the windows and put murals in each window. And since if anybody has a chance to get down there and look inside that place, all that creamery equipment he has in there, it's fantastic, really. He would like to put murals on those windows with dairy themes on them. He would like to get with us to find out what we're going to do exactly with the plaza down there so that his dairy theme doesn't clash with it. I don't think it will. And I did give him some information on the facade program today, and he's going to get back with us on that. Outside of that, I can't think of anything else, so
I move we adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Adjourn. Well, they muddled through that. Before you guys get away,